right now on 5 on Your Side at 10.
Celebrating veterans, how the bi-state is supporting our nation's heroes on this Veterans Day.
Your neighbors ask that I speak for them and say to you simply, my fellow veterans, this one simple thing. Thank you.
Temperatures awfully chilly this morning. A lot of frost throughout the area, and we'll have one more morning of that. But what we can expect over the next few days and when temperatures will reach near 70 degrees again.
It's known as the symbol of St. Louis. This weekend, the Gateway Arch, the backdrop of a brazen crime. Thieves target a women's college basketball team in town for a tournament.
It was a very emotional day for us. Obviously, none of our kids have been through that. I've never been through it.
Good evening. I'm Brent Solomon. Right now, police are looking for whoever broke into a basketball team's travel bus. They were visiting from Indiana and stopped to pose for photos by the arch. Within minutes, their personal items were gone. 5 on Your Side's Annie Krall has the very latest.
How often do you see basketball opponents wearing almost identical uniforms on the court? Well, when the visiting team has their jerseys stolen out of a van while taking a team picture at the arch, that's exactly what you're going to see.
St. Louis is a fun time. Like, it's a great city to be a part of. It just sucks that bad things happen.
17 women's basketball players from Anderson University in Indiana were in town for the 2-day basketball tournament hosted at Webster University. At around 2 p.m. on Friday, Anderson took these team photos at the arch. They stopped for no more than 30 minutes. Yet,
one of them had been broken into, and a lot of our stuff was missing. A lot of game jerseys, backpacks with laptops and iPads and iPods and all that kind of stuff was taken.
The police report saying the driver door on one of the vans had been damaged during the break-in between Gateway Arch riverboats and the arch. Multiple electronics, driver's licenses, a social security card, and a number of basketball jerseys were stolen. Even their shoes were gone. So within a few hours, Webster University jumped into action, finding extra jerseys and kicks from their inventory to try and size the opposing players correctly.
They play fast, they press, they shoot the three, they're well coached, they're young, they're scrappy, so I kind of feel like the way they play is kind of how they handle this situation. They were resilient, and so it kind of shows how they play on the court and how they dealt with this off the court as well.
When it comes to how some collegiate athletes may feel about playing in St. Louis in the future,
I would say just kind of balance that out, and we work with that all the time with recruits, particularly out of state, that this is a very safe campus and St. Louis is a great city.
Webster beat Anderson with a final score of 101-62. Reporting in Webster Groves, Annie Krall, 5 on Your Side.
And one of the players' relatives found some of the team jerseys in a nearby dumpster. Other players were able to ping their stolen devices to Bell Fountain neighbors. Developing tonight, a St. Louis police officer is recovering after being hurt on duty. It happened just before 3 this afternoon at a home on Darden Drive at the border of St. Louis City and Pine Lawn. Police say the officer was responding to a behavioral health crisis, and that's when someone punched the officer. The officer fell and hit their head. The officer had minor injuries and was taken to Barnes Jewish Hospital. Right now, police are not saying what led up to that incident or if any charges will be filed. A South St. Louis community banding together to prevent crime. Today, the Dutchtown Community Improvement District held its 2nd annual Safety Summit to look at the root causes of crime. They're focusing on expanding cameras to help police identify criminals. Organizers there say it won't stop all crime, but it will help.
We're looking at how we can make ourselves as a community, as a neighborhood, how we can help ourselves be safer and how we can minimize the impact to ourselves and help our neighborhood be safer as a whole.
And she says crime in the Dutchtown neighborhood is actually down this year compared to last. Time now for your weather first forecast. It's a pretty chilly end to Veterans Day. Meteorologist Gary Frank is here. The question is, Gary, how's the rest of the weekend looking?
I still think it looks pretty good. I think we're going to start off almost identical the way we had this morning, where we had a little bit of frost here and there, right? And in fact, it was a pretty hard freeze for most of us, but it warmed up nicely. And as we worked our way back into the 50s, clouds have increased. The good news is we stayed clear through most of the day. Those clouds didn't increase till about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And now Wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of sprinkles here and there. Not much really reaching the surface between Gerald and Union, but otherwise temps right now still 50 degrees. That's not bad considering we've seen those numbers really fall overnight, 45 in Chesterfield. So where that cloud cover is and slight moisture, it's going to at least keep us steady for a brief period. But things will clear out. We'll drop down to around freezing, if not just below it in many cases. A little warmer in the city with some frost again. But overall, it is going to be much better over the next few days. How high it gets, and while we won't set any records, we're above average over the next few days.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
All day long, a celebration of veterans all across our area. Veterans Day celebrations have happened since 1938, initially to remember veterans of World War I. Well, now all servicemen and women are being recognized for their service. And tonight, we'll take a look at Veterans Day events all across the bi-state. Let's start in downtown St. Louis. From Market Street to the Soldiers Memorial Military Museum, you could watch the city's annual Veterans Day parade. Dozens of veteran groups and local organizations all on hand. And check this out, the 5 on Your Side live bus was proud to be there. The parade ended with a ceremony at the memorial, followed by a car show. Closer to home now, veterans getting special recognition in University City. As the city celebrates 100 years since it opened its first parks, leaders are also paying tribute to those who serve our country. 5 on Your Side's Travis Cummings reports.
Your country asked, who will stand guard tonight while your neighbors rest? And you answered, I will.
The stars were all aligned on Olive Boulevard in University City for a special salute.
Anybody who has been a veteran or who is in active duty, God love you.
Our nation's heroes receiving honor on top of an honor.
And we have been celebrating our parks for the past year. The committee that put this together decided that the culmination of our celebration should be a celebration of our veterans.
Another centenarian worth celebrating? 100-year-old U-City resident and World War II veteran Ethel Miriam.
1943. I was sworn in on June the 16th, my birthday, my 20th birthday.
Just one more.
And I left 3 days later.
She was a woman accepted for volunteer emergency service and started out as a storekeeper.
I got my degree. My commanding officer at the Reserve Center said, would you like to be an officer? And I said, no, sir. And he said, you're going to be.
Miriam went through every rank until she made captain.
It was something.
It was something.
It was the smartest thing I ever did to join the service because I got my education.
Veterans Memorial Fountain here in U-City was constructed in 1936, then rededicated to all veterans in 1986. And this year, the community is being reminded again that veterans are here.
Well, some veterans speak about being disrespected when they came home. I experienced being isolated and not really having anybody to talk to who understood my experience.
Today's a chance to remind them they're forever stars. Travis Cummings, 5 on Your Side.
Let's go ahead and take you across the river now in Edwardsville, where the town held a parade of its own. It was led by the Scott Air Force Base Color Guard. Local school bands and scout groups joined veterans on the streets there. And it was all followed by an after party at the American Legion Post 199 on Route 157.
Whether it's birria mac and cheese, we've got lobster mac and cheese, we have different variations from all types of restaurants.
The best mac and cheese in the city. The local restaurant that came out on top in a friendly food fight, pushing back against a ceasefire. Tonight, the Israeli Prime Minister rejecting growing calls to end the country's battle with Hamas.
Tonight, the National Association of Black Journalists in St. Louis held a special award ceremony. They celebrated those that they call living legends. All honorees have roots in St. Louis and are recognized for their impact on media and journalism in the area. This year's winners include WKYC anchor Russ Mitchell, St. Louis American's newspaper publisher Dr. Donald Suggs, and Vector Communications co-founder Lorna Godwin. Well, mac and cheese lovers got together today at the Moto Museum for a little fun food fight. The mac and cheese throwdown pits local chefs and restaurants against one another. Places like Salt and Smoke, Beastcraft Barbecue, Doggy Max, all competing for the People's Choice Award. Guests at the sold-out event could snack on unlimited samples and enjoy live music. At the end of the competition, Beastcraft Barbecue came out on top.
I went to that last year. It was a lot of fun. It's a really nice, that's a nice museum. That's fun. We've been so fortunate we haven't had to go indoors. We were able to be outdoors, and right now it's not all that chilly. What it's like overnight and when we'll see temperatures warm up even more in the extended forecast.
Tonight, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is rejecting growing calls for a ceasefire in Gaza, saying it would only be possible if Hamas releases all hostages. In a televised address today, Netanyahu said he wants Gaza to be demilitarized, with Israel controlling security there. Fighting has also intensified around Gaza's largest hospital. Israel says Hamas is using them to shield its fighters, while Palestinians accuse Israel of recklessly harming civilians there. President Biden celebrating Veterans Day at Arlington National Cemetery. He spoke to those who have lost loved ones who served, and that's something he can relate to. His son Bo was exposed to toxic burn pits while serving in Iraq, later dying of cancer, which he says was related. Now the president is expanding the PACT Act for those in similar circumstances.
Too many have died. In the 15 months since we wrote and signed the PACT Act, 500,000 veterans and their surviving family members have already started receiving benefits. But far, far too many are still not getting what they need.
Starting next March, any veteran exposed to toxic material will be able to enroll in VA health care. Well, while today is Veterans Day this year, that may not have always been the case. We checked in with our National Verify team to see if the holiday was always celebrated on November 11th.
Verify here with your Fast Fact. November 11th is when we honor the men and women who served in the U.S. military. But has Veterans Day always been observed on November 11th? These are our sources. Veterans Day started on November 11, 1938 as Armistice Day to honor veterans of World War I. In 1954, veterans of later wars lobbied Congress to make the day more inclusive, and the holiday was renamed Veterans Day. Then, in 1968, Congress passed the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, which moved Veterans Day to the fourth Monday of October. There was a lot of confusion, and 10 years later, Veterans Day moved back to the 11th day of the 11th month, in honor of the end of World War I. So it's false that Veterans Day has always been observed on November 11th, but it has been since 1978. However, if the holiday falls on a weekend, the celebrations still happen on the date, but federal offices close on the nearest weekday. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
And as always, if there's something you'd like us to verify, just email us at verify@ksdk.com. We want to now get to your weather first forecast. Meteorologist Gary Frank joining me now, and I tell you what, if you were to guess, are we in November?
I know. It
know what I
doesn't
mean?
feel like it, right?
Not at all.
It feels like, that point where end of September, October, we start getting a couple of cooler days, and then maybe it warms back up a little bit, but we've been kind of consistently in that. It's dry, and we've got a couple of those really cold mornings, and that's the only reason that we are not in one of the top 5 warm months so far. We'll get there, but it's really dry. Right now, so far, the city looks really nice at night, as it often does here, looking down Market Street. I do think that overall, we're going to continue to look at pretty pleasant conditions, and that's what I want to look at here overall, because it's still pretty nice for the most part. Quiet conditions here so far. You have this area with some pretty decent rain, but it has fallen apart overall, and behind it is clearing. So this cloud cover has kind of kept us here for the most part. You can see that here as I zoom in. There are a couple of light sprinkles. I don't really see much from really from Gerald, Oak Hill, North of Cuba and Union, you're not really seeing much of this, even as I drag this closer from Washington, New Melle, and Wildwood. Maybe a sprinkle in the city. Not much going on. You can see how that's really starting to fade here. For the most part, though, don't be surprised to get a sprinkle. I think a lot of this is falling apart. This is something we need, but probably not going to receive. 50 right now. At 5 o'clock, it was 52. So we haven't dropped all that much. We've got an east-southeast breeze at 6 miles an hour. We got to 56. Our normals, that's one of the closer to normal days that we've seen. And to Brent's point, it has not felt normal or anything but, right, when we get to 84 degrees. Now, for the most part, though, you're going to continue to see clouds that start to move out into the overnight hours, and I think eventually will drop down. Some frost, once again, a frost delay for many of us possible, with temps in the mid-30s. Tomorrow, though, I do expect that, for the most part, we're going to head above the 60-degree mark once again, and that's the start of this week. More sunshine overall. We've had just a trace of rain at Lambert so far. I don't think we're going to get it tonight. So for the first 11 days, that's only the 14th time we've had a trace or less of rain throughout the first 11 days. We're going to add to that, despite a pretty active setup where we could get storms that develop, but I really just don't think that we're going to see much over the next few days. I will look ahead as we get closer to Friday into Saturday as our next best bet. Overall, though, total rain next week, through next Saturday, we're at least getting it over 100ths of an inch. But I think our best bet's going to be this front that moves through on Friday. Knocks us down a little bit, but at least gives us a little bit of an opportunity for some rain as well. I'm not fully sold on the fact that it's going to give us a lot of rain. And temperatures in the low to mid 60s here overall, close to 70 degrees. Once again, breezy, and then that slight chance for rain. A couple days break, and then when that cold air moves in, it just drops us back into the 50s. So that's where we would expect to be. But otherwise, not all that bad.
Not bad at all. Yeah. All right, my friend. And not bad for Mizzou tonight, right?
Not bad. I tell you what, I'd love to know what it's like to be Mizzou running back Cody Schrader in Columbia, Missouri right about now. And it's not just a happy night for the Missouri Tigers. It's been a great night for all of our local teams. Stick around. Sports is up next.
The Sports Desk is sponsored by Jim Butler Chevrolet, the Midwest's #1 Chevy dealer 10 years running.
I said earlier they ought to call these guys the St. Louis Stars. All three of these guys from the St. Louis area. Burden, Cook, Schrader. They're pouring it on at home.
Brad Nessler, you could not say it any better. All year we've been hearing that this season has been about Missouri having something to prove. Cody Schrader, well, he's had his entire football career built around proving himself. Today, the St. Louis Kid and his teammates did more than prove themselves. They dominated number 13 Tennessee. Welcome back to Columbia, Josh Heupel. I don't think you'll get the chance to run up the score this year. Second quarter, Schrader score. That was just the first highlight of his standout day. More on him later, a lot more. Mizzou leading in the third. Look at this fake from Brady Cook. My goodness, he runs it in for a score of his own. 19-7 Mizzou. Cody Schrader made so much history today, I don't know what to spotlight. 321 total yards of offense, second most in Mizzou history in a single game. He's the only player in SEC history with 200 yards rushing and 100 yards receiving in a game. Insanity. The other STL guys got in on the action as well. Luther Burden III seals the win in the fourth quarter. And then the defense, which was brilliant all day long, adds insult to injury. Dalen Carnell, pick 6. Mizzou completes the season sweep of the state of Tennessee. They beat the Vols 36-7, and Cody Schrader lives out a day from his wildest dreams.
Just looking back, I mean, you guys know my story by now. I mean, just seeing where I came from and then, having a team and a brotherhood that you can feel that real love in the locker room, that's something you always look for. And, and I'm just extremely blessed to be a part of this team and will never forget it for the rest of my life.
The Cardiac Illini were at it again today against Indiana. Backup QB John Paddock in the spotlight for another week. Big day for the St. Louis kids. Isaiah Williams had 200 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, including this long bomb from Paddock. Illini on top in the third. Reggie Love the third had 140 yards on the ground and 2 scores, including this long run to kick off the fourth. Illinois up 12 at that point. But Indiana's going to make a comeback, and they convert this 2-point conversion at the end of regulation. We're going to overtime. And in OT, who else? It's Paddock to Williams on third down for a walk-off touchdown. Paddock throws for 500 yards, and Illinois wins 48-45 in overtime to get back to 500 on the season. Across the river for some playoff soccer, SIUE hosting Incarnate Word for the OVC Championship. That was the only goal tonight. Nacho Abel is a scoring machine, and he gets another one tonight. Cougars win 1-0. They are the OVC champions and have guaranteed a spot in the big dance. SIUE has still not lost a game this season. They're the only team in the country that can say that. What a year. SLU Hoops hosting Illinois State tonight at Chaffetz Arena. The big man has finally been cleared, and Bruce Zhang made his presence felt early tonight. The crowd loves him. 5 points in 7 minutes. TJ Hargrove is one of the most exciting players in town. Here's 3 of his 12 points. And Gibson Jimerson, well, he paced all Billikens with 20. SLU holds off Illinois State 80-71. The last time the Blues went to Colorado, you had national TV analysts saying they could have played better themselves. Tonight, the note looked determined not to have a repeat performance against the Avalanche. Craig Berube looking for some offense, and he got a lot of it early on. Torrey Krug fires the shot. Braden Shen tips it in, and the Blues are up 1-0. After another Shen goal, Krug fires again. This time, he gets one of his own. 3-0 Blues. Well, they can't get a power play goal, but they can get a short-handed one. Pavel Buchnevich comes flying in for this score, and right now the Blues are leading, not losing, 6-1 in the third period. Captain Braden Shen has a hat trick. There's even more winning. East St. Louis Roxana moving on, Illinois football playoffs.
All right.
Modern day state champions of volleyball, so just a happy day all around.
Yeah, we love your sports tonight. Thank you, my friend. Yes. Take it away.
Yeah, well, you know, if you love the weather the last few days, it's really not going to change a whole lot. I will say the only differences are going to be, extra clouds and a breeze by the end of the week, and then a slight change, but there's no big cold, and there's really not a lot of rain. We're really holding on to maybe Monday, Tuesday of about 10 days from now. We'll see if we can find some then. Otherwise, status quo.
Yep. Keep those coats handy, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get rid of those. That's all at 10 o'clock tonight, but we've got Saturday Night Live coming up next. Thanks for the company.